session today. Uh, Abby has been kind enough to make a compilation of Unit 7 for you guys. So at the end of the day, well, we have collected all, we will have compiled all the chapters from this book, Language Assessment for Classroom Teachers. No, uh, practically we are halfway through, I could say. No, we just finished Unit 6, but the book has 12 chapters. No, um, today with assessment records. No? And then Thursday with templates, no, developing assessment templates. We cover, or we would have covered the aspects, all the aspects of the theoretical components, no, of an assessment, and then Unit 9, 10, and so on are uh, the units that cover examples, not designing assessment tasks, classroom-based assessment tasks. And so to take this week as the last week of preparation, let's if you want to call it that way. And so and then we will try and see some examples maybe from the book, and then some real examples. I would like you also to choose some of your best assessments and be willing to share this with in class, okay, next week, no, next week and the weeks to come after that. Great. So but okay, but we are halfway through of the book, so which is it's great. No, it's great. Yeah, of course, I highly recommend reading again. um, the book provides very good examples. Okay, but I think it's important that you take those examples and relate them to maybe examples of your own uh, creation, or examples that the course books suggest in your course books, and if you're working in high school or primary. You know? Okay, and of course, read and read more and more, and try and deepen in the topics that draw your attention. You know? Well, of course, I'm sure that because you're already in your level 8 now. Soon you will be graduating. I'm sure that you will find these topics interesting, and we'll try to understand more in detail what the benefits are, no, of developing assessments, and understand how assessments can bring about changes, not beneficial changes for your class. That because that's the ultimate goal. No? Great. So I think we're going to spend this first session looking at, I mean, group 5 with their presentation, please. So you have about 30 minutes, 30
Sí,
minutes
que
for
baje, dice la
yourself.
Cecilia.
Great. And so when we finish this presentation, then then we will have to open a new session to start reviewing assessment records. No, that's the topic for tonight's sessions. No, assessment records. How can we record our students' assessment performance? No, great. And so with that, we will have completed basically the all the aspects of the assessment development. No? Great. So group 5, are you ready? Do you have your materials?
Yes, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you very much. please don't forget to tell me, say your names before your, well, now as an introduction, and then as you begin your participation in the presentation.
Can you see something?
Yeah, yes, I can,
Okay, okay.
I can see your names now, and and-
Okay.
okay. So whenever you're ready.
Yes, sorry, I'm having some issues with my
No,
computer.
that's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay.
Uh, yeah, I think we are ready. Okay. I think it's um,
Hello.
okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Um,
Good afternoon.
as as it was said before, we are group number 5, and we're gonna present the chapter 2 about classroom-based language assessment. The team members are Manzano Natalie, Nolivos Eric, Bastidas Joel, Alvear Alex, and me, De la Cruz Eduardo.
Edward.
Okay. So, what is classroom-based assessment?
Assessment.
It is obviously an assessment which is based on the learning that has taken place within the context of, of the classroom, without the reference being, I mean, without the reference to other classrooms or other classes. This assessment is it is used to offer some feedback to teacher and students on the quality of the learning performance, supporting its ongoing um, improvement. As I said, it is generally used by teachers only to provide some feedback, and this feedback will be used to improve the next classes or lessons.
Yes.
Next is my classmate. Can you? Oh, okay.
Okay, good afternoon, class. Good afternoon, prof.
Good, good afternoon.
Classroom-based assessment objectives. Here we have 4 main objectives for classroom-based assessment. So, search, which is to explore the learning process of student in order to know if the study program is working or not. Teacher gather information from the whole semester process, from the whole learning process, could be semester or academic year, through various forms of assessment in order to obtain a clear view of the achievement of student competence. Examination. Examination, which is to examine the weaknesses experienced by the students in the learning process. Assessments through both formal and informal competence in order to look for things that cause problems in the learning process. Next, discovery, which is to search and find things that cause, I don't know, yes, I think, no, examination. Examination means that try to to obtain information in terms of numbers of the students' learning process. Finally, interference. That means that the teacher had to inform or to let this information of the student process to different members of the learning community. It could be professors, parents, and that means the stakeholders. So this is an important point because this learning process can be monitored or can be
Monitor.
yes, by all the community, mainly parents. I think that is the the main the main the main the main the main the main persons who have to know this how the students is how students are learning or how students are carry on this whole process. So that's was that for objectives. Next one, please. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, teacher.
Good afternoon.
my name is Joel Bastidas. I'm going to explain
Very
about the
good.
classroom-based assessment function. Uh, I have put here some tips to do this kind of assessment. The first one is provide feedback learning process with assessment created by teachers. In each lesson provides information on the level of a student's level of the material studied in the learning process. Also, the assessment results can be educational information about the actions that can improve a student's mastery. Other important is increase students' motivation. Um, Often we find the lack of enthusiasm for learning in students, but after assessing teacher, uh, the teacher can improve a student's motivation to learn, but with the teacher's motivation. So in this way, the students can work on the problems and studying hard. So assessment can improve the students' motivation to learn. The other is provide student progress reports to parents because with the reports of students' progress, the parents can know the state of children's progress and therefore they can provide them a better guide if the child assessment showed unsatisfactory results. The next, please. Okay, here I have some uh, like recommendations for a good assessment. Uh, for example, the first one is use of varied approaches to assessing a student's understanding. Uh, Feedback plus adaptation of instruction, active involvement of students in the learning process, establishment of learning goals, and tracking of individual student progress toward those goals. Use of varied instruction methods to meet diverse students' needs. Thanks.
Afternoon, teacher. I'm Eric Nolivas, and I'm going to talk about the measurement and the assessment. It's essential comparing something with a basis or with a on the basis of a certain size. So um, it could be divided into three kinds of measurement. The first is measurement made not to test something. Example, measure the width of the door. The second one is the measurement were performed to test something, that is measures to test the durability of the door. The third is the measurement were performed to assess, for example, the measure students' progress in order to achieve some specific goals. For this, we have three kind of methods. We have the test that we are going to measure the learning outcomes, and we can categorize the results of our students. Then we have the non-test. Here we have we are going to measure the behavior of the students. In this case, we can categorize the answer of our students. And finally, we have the assessment that we are going to measure a person's success. Next, please. So here we have a little example. In the first column, we have the reading component measured. In the second, we have recognize a rhyme. What is measured? The ability of identify words that have the same ending sounds. Here we have some examples of assessment question. Could be do these words rhyme, big, fit, and our students have to respond yes. In the fourth column, we have to put the age of our students according of the level of the students. And finally, we have when should component be assessed. In this case, the components should be assessed at the end, and the middle, and in the end of the grade. So next, please. Here we have some characteristics. The measurement characteristic we have that is the script meaning. The script meaning it's only describes the state of the measurement object that is measured. And on the other hand, the assessment characteristic is going to interpret meaning that assessment provides information about the state of things through the interpretation of measurement results. In the measurement characteristics we have that is quantitative measurement. It means that is going to give us information in terms of numbers instead of the assessment characteristic that we have that is qualitative assessment, that its result is in the form of means that statements about the quality of something that is assessed. In this case, our students, if they can, if they understand what they what 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 we are teaching. So finally, we have the measurement characteristic. We have the objective means. It means that the measurement that present data without plus and minus, and the assessment characteristics. We have the subjective assessment that provide information means that an individual is determined by the condition of the judge. So that's all. Thanks.
Okay. That was Eric, not Nolivos, no? That's your name?
Yes, Prof.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, it's Eduardo de la Cruz again.
Okay, Eduardo.
Now we will reflect on the use of the classroom-based assessment with a simple example.
Example.
Okay. We say that the teacher uses a dictation task of words in isolation at the end of the class. Now, you need to know that it is not necessary that we draw diagrams like this one or like the one we have in the book to understand the CBA process. With time and practice, it will be enough to to understand these steps we have in the slide. The first one is assessment task. In this case, is obviously the dictation task. And then we have the student's performance. It refers to what the student does. In this case, the student will hear the teacher say some words, and he will try to reproduce them in a written way. The step number 3 is assessment records. It is the number of correct answers of the students. For this example, let's say that most of the students had bad grades. Now it is time to interpret those records, as most of them got bad grades. Then we will say that their mastery of the vocabulary of the lesson is low, is bad. Now, thanks to what we interpret, we will be able to make the decisions that we believe are most convenient. These decisions can be formative if our intention is only to provide some feedback, or summative if what we want is to ensure that our students master the language at the level they should. Finally, we have the consequences. And once we have made the decisions, we can see the consequences that they will have, which are almost always improving language proficiency or promoting students to the next level. Now, this whole process is cyclical and continuous because it happens throughout the entire teaching and learning process, and is repeated over and over again. And this can be explicitly, as in this example, or implicitly. Okay. Now we have some conclusions.
Good afternoon, Professor. I'm going to talk about the conclusions.
Okay, Natalie, no?
Yes. As conclusions, we could say that teacher-based assessment extend the range and diversity of assessment collection opportunities, task types, and also real-world context. Feedback learners can receive constructive feedback immediately after the assessment has finished, and this improve their learning. Teachers and learners become part of assessment process, and the knowledge sharing can take place within and also across schools. And professional development, it provides an opportunity for teachers to build their assessment skills and try to transmit their knowledge to the students. And that was the conclusions. Thanks. That was our presentations. Our presentation.
Okay, Natalie, no? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. And so this is the end of the presentation, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Group 5. Okay. For your presentation. Well, okay. Well, there you go. There you have. We've done a complete review. Well, you guys have done a complete review going from chapters 2 to 6. Well, and 7, no? 2 to 6. Yes, of course, yeah. Because no, to 7. Yeah. Something that I forgot is that. Well, first I want you to go ahead and read chapter 3, because it's something that we haven't done, but it's in the book. You can go ahead and read it. Basically, it's an explanation. It's an overview of how classroom-based tasks work. You know, so it's like the introduction of these 4 steps. You know, consequences, decisions, interpretations, and records. You know, from the student's performance. Okay, so unit 3 is like the preparation. It's an overview of what is going to happen, what you're going to see in chapters 4, 5, 6, and then 7, no, with assessment records included. No? So I suggest that you read it just for a better understanding of how assessment development works, no, and is carried out. No, it's carried out. Okay. So, well, if we ever have the time, maybe when we go on to the next lessons, we might be looking back at chapter 3, you know, for some reference, for some examples, or maybe to use the tables or the charts there. Great, but I think that part is missing, you know, in the for the whole understanding of classroom-based assessment tasks. Great. Okay, so well, I understand that we have maybe 10 minutes, no? So I would like to introduce this topic. Well, obviously, if the session finishes, we will reconnect in, say, 50 minutes, so to give time to Avi to do the recording and for you guys to read a little bit, okay? And we will be joining again in around 6, no? Yeah, around 6 when the first session finishes, okay? So Abby, I would like to ask you to please share this slide with us. It's page, well, it's chapter 7, no? It's chapter 7. In my book, it's page 73. Well, in your book, I think it's a different number page. Great, yeah.
Yes, Prof.
Thank you very much. I can see it on display now here. Great. Yeah, well, this is something that you, I think it was group 4, group 3 already presented. Probably group 4, I guess. Yeah, they talk about assessment records, no? How can we record our students' assessment performance, no? So, yeah, and so obviously, if you want to go back and see their slides, no, I think they have very good slides summarizing this, no? The material should be available now for everybody, no, because Abby made a compilation of all your presentations, no? And the slides are very good, so you can look back at them. Great, and so basically on this page, what you have in the introduction, no, is assessment records. No, let me get my notes here. Yeah.
And yes, Prof, it was group number 4 that
Group 4. No? Yes.
They were talking about this topic.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. Yes, it was group 4. So assessment records. When we talk about assessment records, we have to understand that many aspects, no, of the procedure in the assessment tasks can offer some room for to find differences, no? So basically, if you read paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, the author explains that there are many factors, no, that influence and that can have that can affect. That's the word, can affect the students' performance. Remember that we register the records based on the students' performance now of the task that we have developed or elaborated. And some elements that can affect this are, for example, if we administer quiz to only one student, and if we do it for the students to work in pairs or maybe in groups, no? And so it's different, no? If you do it for one student, no, maybe one student feels more, I don't know, less confident, no, that he's going to do it. For example, digamos que sería una presentación, no? If the student is doing a presentation in front of the class or for all the class to see, he might feel less confident that in his speaking skills, no? If you do it in pairs, no, if you do it in groups, they might feel more confident. So this may affect students' performance. If you administer this at the beginning of the course, no, at the beginning of the unit of instruction, okay, it has a certain impact. If you do it in the middle, if you do it at the end of a unit of instruction, you know, as we can see in the fifth line, if you do it in the middle of the term, the semester, or the year, all these different scenarios will have will affect students' performance. Now we talk here about performance, now how they do it. No, remember, performance, it can be, for example, spoken. Now, if it's a presentation, it can be written. If they do a quiz, if they mark the answers, it can be a group of choices that the students have made. It can be a paragraph that they write. You know, they have to write for. Okay, another factor could be that without realizing, you can give more time, no, for assessment one, and then maybe for the next you give less time. No, this time is going to affect directly on the student's performance. Okay, so those are things that I'm sure that you have experienced, and you as a students have experienced. No, you might have a teacher that says, okay, don't worry, you have 1 hour to do my quiz, no? And so you feel more confident because you know that you have more time. The next teacher comes and says, no, I have calculated that you need 20 minutes for my quiz. And so the platform opens at 6 and closes at 20 minutes. So when you work under pressure, no, knowing that you have only 20 minutes, then your performance may be affected. So that's what we have to take into consideration for the records, no? The records. Also, the assessment task, no, the kind of tasks that you give to your students also can affect, no. The input or the material that the students need to process and respond also can have some influence. Because you may find that for some tasks, you give a lot of input, no? Okay, and for other tasks, students have very little input, no? Or the type of input is more complex in one assessment, and then in the next is maybe less complex or more complex, no? Okay, or the tasks, no? The tasks that you give may differ in the topical content, no? For example, you give a task on unit 1, unit 2. For example, for the first quiz, you decide that they are going to be assessed on the content of unit 1. Entonces, la cantidad es poco, no? Unit 1. But then because you don't have much time, you say, no, for the second assessment, you're going to study chapters 2 and 3. Entonces, chapters 2 and 3 is more content, no? And the topics maybe are more complex, no? The